everyone, Karen here, and before we start with the auto ships next month from Craftaganza at home, I wanted to take one more look at those materials from class 1. Now, as you recall, we had an embossing folder that had a matching die. Now this time around, I'm just going to use the embossing folder, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to emboss it onto some acetate and color it with some markers. So let me show you what I'm going to use. I am going to use this set of nesting dies, the inverted stitched overlays. And any nesting die set you have in your stash will work. You just need to cut an opening in the card. So whatever you have, use what's in your stash. I have a 4x6 piece of acetate that I've stuck a piece of painter's tape on so I can keep track of it. I have a 4x6 piece of silver Centura pearl. I have a 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 bronze piece of Centura pearl. I have a 5x7 card base, which of course would be a 10x7 scored at 5. And then I also have one of these inserts that I have had floating around for quite a while in my craft room, and I found I still had one left. So I'm going to use that in the card too. So let's get started with the acetate, and then we'll get this card done. So I'm going to take this tape off of here, and I'm going to take the 4x6 acetate, put it in my embossing folder. Got something on there. And I am going to run this through my machine. Now I will use my electric machine, not my manual machine, just because it is a very heavy acetate that I'm using, and I'll get a better impression that way with the acetate. So I'll be right back. Alright, so now for embossing the acetate, all I used, because this was a 3D folder, I used my clear plate and my plastic shim. And it will look better once I color it in, but you can see the acetate just emboss beautifully. Alright, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to flip this over to the back. So I will be coloring on the debossed side. Alright, I know it's a little hard to see right now, but you'll start seeing it as I color it in. So I'm going to start up here with the leaves, and because this is the recessed side, it makes it nice and easy to color in. Now at first it's going to seem a little light and my pen might be squeaky on here, but as you go along and layer it up, you will get more and more color. So I'm just going to keep coloring this in and layering up the color, and as you let the color dry and then go back over it, it will become darker. Now the acetate does make it look a little lighter than when you're coloring on paper, so you may want to go a little bit darker than what you normally would think you would want to. Just color like you normally would. Just keep going around. And it really keeps you from coloring outside the edges because it is recessed. Let's see. There we go. Now you can see it. Starting to see the color there. So I'm going to color some more leaves down here. Now this one here is very small, so I'm just going to kind of dab color in there. There's a leaf here. It is easier to see in person than what you're seeing on the camera. Alright, now let's flip this over and we'll start to look to see where we're headed here. So now you can see it's a very light muted color. And the more color you put in, because I can see this here is very light, so I'm going to go ahead and color some more there. So now you can see that one has gotten darker. A lot darker. So the first time around, it's really best to just get some color in there, and then you can go in a second time around and color it in, and it actually starts to look like almost like a watercolor because it does kind of slide on the acetate a little bit. But you can go in there and get some really kind of nice effects. can see it goes pretty fast, even though you have to go over it more than once. Oh, missed one here. Because you don't have to be that particular about it. Alright, so now let's see what we have. See, so now it's getting a lot darker. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry and go on to another color, and then I can always go back and add more later. I think I'm going to use this darker pink color, and I'm going to use this flower right here. I know it's very squeaky. But once you get the first layer of color down, it stops squeaking. Let's take a look. I think that might be all right. All right, and I'm going to let that dry. Now I'm going to bring in a dark purple for this flower here. As you can see here, this color is very, very dark. So you don't have to be afraid of using a very dark color. Let's see, let me look here. There's a petal over here. And when you're layering the color, if you do put some lines in it, like I'm doing right here, that will show through. Like that. So we finished coloring this in. Now let me come in with a dark black brown for the center here. Now we have that. I think I do want to make this a little darker. Alright. Come in with a color that's a little darker. A little bit more color here. And there is a little bit of experimentation because the colors do look lighter than what they do when they use paper. And also, as you layer it up, you get better coverage. There we go. Now I'm going to take the brown for the center of the daisies that are on here. Let's see, for the bird, I think I'm just going to make him blue. Then I'm going to go back with a darker blue in places. So I'm going to take this darker blue, go over its wing. Come back in here with the lighter blue again, just to get a little bit more color in there. The eye might be a little tricky here, so let me see, just put a dot for the eye and bring in his feet. And his other leg is over here. Alright. I think I'll bring in this dark orange for the butterfly. antenna brown. Maybe just mix in a little brown here. Come back in, kind of spread that out. See, it takes a moment to dry, so you can mix things up a little bit. And just keep kind of tapping and blending. All right, let's see what that butterfly looks like. I think that's pretty happy with that. All right, now for the bigger butterfly, let's see. I think I'll stick with the orange, and I'll put a little bit more brown in it. That's still wet. Let me come in with the brown. Up to its body and the antenna. And we'll do this wing. And dab in the brown. And I'm just following the 3D embossing on this butterfly. Kind of blend it in a little bit while it's still wet. And let's see what we have. So now we have that. I think this bird needs a little bit more color. That's better. Oh, and the bird needs a beak, so let's give him an orange beak. Color that in. There we go. So all that's left are the 2 sunflowers here. I see a couple leaves I missed. I can go back over the ones that are dry, put a little detail in there. Now for the daisies, that would be a light color. Let's see, what do I want to pick? I am thinking I might go with the W5. Let's see. That may not show up. Nope, that's not going to be dark enough. So this is a very dark color. This is a very dark gray brown. And that's going to be fine for that. All right, all that's left is this daisy here. So I'm going to be using the 2 biggest pieces here. This one doesn't have a outer cutting die, it just cuts into the paper. So I'm going to try that first and see what that looks like. I may leave it like that, or I may need to cut out a circle and put a contrasting color on top. We'll see. But I'm going to put this in the center, and I'm going to take this down, and I'm going to run this through my machine. Alright, so let's see here. Time to make some decisions. Hey, let's poke all these out. All right, now see, that leaves a really pretty cutout. It doesn't actually cut all the way, but it does leave that nice stitched and the nice scallop. So this is going to go on here, and this is going to go on here. So the question is, what is it going to look like on the gold? So that's what it looks like on the gold. And this looks like what it's on the white. Let's try this light blue. You know, I think I like that. It's not as harsh as the white. But it's not as dark as the gold. All right, so I'm going to cut this to 4x6. So I'm going to cut this to slightly smaller than 4x6. Oops, that's got a rip in it. Let me cut the other side. So I'm just going to go to the 4-inch line and then come in a smidge. And I'm going to go to 6 and come in just a little bit. And that's just so it's not overhanging my paper. Now let's look at the acetate and see if I need to trim any of that off. I'm going to trim a little bit of the acetate off. Just a tiny little bit. Just to make sure it's not hanging off. I'm going to cut a little bit off the top. There we go. Now it is time to put all this together. All right, let me get some glue. Now I also have some dry adhesive here. All right, so let's see. Let's get everything layered so we know how we're going to do this and how we're going to attach everything. All right, so this was going to be here. This will be on here, like that. And then I have a happy birthday to put on the front. So I'm thinking I will need to color this, and I'm going to think about what color I want to color that. But first, let's start getting this all attached. So this part here, I can just put some red liner tape or some tear tape. I think I'll use this big tear tape. Find the end here. And I am just going to put some here and here. Because some of the acetate will be covered, we can put any kind of tape that we want. All right, rub this down. The backing paper comes off. You know what? I'm going to switch tape. Okay, this tape is just giving me fits today. That does not want to stick now that I had that other tape on there. All right. That does not want to stick. Let's try this. There we go. That's sticking. You know what? I'm just going to pull this off. That does not want to stick either. All right. Now this is thin enough that I can put some down here and down here. Alright, now this needs to be lined up because this is going to be a one-time stick. So let me put the blue paper behind here so I can see it really well. Line this up. And down. Okay. So now I will take the tear tape again, go down this side, go down this side. You won't be able to see any of this because it's behind the frame. Come across the bottom. And come across the top. And before I attach this, let me make sure I don't have any edges sticking out, which I do down here. So I'm just going to trim that off. There we go. Give it all a good rub. So I don't use a lot of dry adhesives. If I was doing this not in a video, just for a card, I would be still using a wet glue and just letting it dry. Because the dry adhesives down here in the state of Florida don't get along well. If you go to an outside market down here with the heat and humidity, it kind of turns it to goo. So I've had that happen a couple times, so I kind of stay away from dry adhesives. Okay, so now this will go on here. Alright, now, I'll put that on there a little high, so let me trim this off on top. There we go. So now we're dealing with paper, so now I can go back to regular glue. Now the question would be, do I want to put this up on foam? I think I kind of do, so let me grab some foam. Let me make sure here, let me grab my card base. Yeah, I think that needs a little foam. Alright, put those away. One piece here, one on this side, that one's a little long. Now this is just the 1/16 foam, so it's not going to give it a lot of height, it's just going to give it a little bit. See, just that little bit of separation really does make it nice. Now this will go in the center. There we go. And this will get glued on here. All that lined up. That looks good. Press down. Clean up my trash again. Now I'm thinking for the background here, for this shadow I should say, I think I'm going to lean toward putting it up here. I think. Nope, I think on the bottom. I'm leaning toward this pink color. just because that kind of stands out. But where I used this dark color to color it in, I know it's going to show up darker on the paper, so I'm going to go a little bit lighter. I'm just going to bring in a little piece of scrap here so I can quickly color around. So see, even though this color is a lot lighter, because the ink shows up lighter, it matches more. Because the acetate does make the ink look lighter. This happy birthday is just something I printed on my computer. That will go on right here. I almost think this needs to be sparkly. I'm going to add some sparkle to this. And this is just the clear sparkle pen from Crafter's Companion. Oh yeah, that's a lot better. That matches better with the card. Alright, let me get some foam. Now I have more 1/16 foam, but it's very skinny. So I'm just going to put a piece of this on the back of this, because this is only 1/4 of an inch, where this foam is 1/2 an inch. So I like to keep foam in different width and thicknesses. Alright, this will go on here. That will go on here. Let's make sure that's where I want to put it and not somewhere else. I think if I put this down here, I think this is going to need a couple of gems. So let me grab some gems. Oh, I think these will be pretty. Alright, so let's get this on here first. So I'm not too concerned about the thickness. Because this is 1/16 and the United States Post Office allows you 1/4 of an inch, I'm only doing 3/16 here, so I'm still less than 1/4 of an inch. So this will go down here in the middle. And make sure it's centered before I press it down. That looks good. Now I'm thinking I will need some gems. I have 2 medium ones and 3 small ones, in the pink and the purple. So I'm thinking, let me put one big one here and here. And I'm going to use this medium gem here. And I just stuck paper too. There we go. Let me turn this upside down so I'm not reaching. There's one. See if I can get this one off without flinging it across the room. There we go. There's 2. Now I'm thinking I can put a couple of the purple ones underneath. Just the little ones. Just going to need a little dab of glue. It might even be too much. There's one. There's 2. There is 3. And here's 4. All right, now let's see. Does it need anything else? Maybe with the pink down here, maybe one purple on each side. I think so. A little dab there, a little dab there. And these came out of a subscription box. That's where most of my gems come from. A Crafter's Companion one, I should say. There we go. I think that looks good now. But you can see now with the color behind there, the color really does show up once it dries and you go over it a couple of times. Alright, now for the inside, all I'm going to do is to take some dry adhesive, and I'm going to put some right here. Now this piece of paper is 4 7/8 by 6 7/8. It's 1/8 of an inch smaller than the card base. Peel the paper off. Open up the card. Lay this inside where it's all nice and even. As you can see, it's just slightly smaller than the card. It's hard to see the yellow and the white on the screen. But it's about 1/8 of an inch smaller than the card base. And I'm going to close this. Let the glue attach. So now, when I open the card, it will open to the paper. Now you can, if you want, put some down the back if you feel like it's not going to stay open. So I'll just put a little piece on the back. And peel the paper off, close the card, and there you go. So now you have your paper insert inside. So there we go. There is one more look at class number 1 from Craftaganza before we start the auto ships next month. And until next time, stay crafty.